So we were robbed, and I'll progress into that. I thought I'd share our security system, talk about how we try to prevent things like this. And first thing we got, I don't know if you can see her, but we got our guard cat. She's sitting over there on duty. I know a lot of people like seeing the cat. She is adorable, and I've had cats before, and I've never seen one so well behaved and so well trained as her. Now, all the training that she's done, she just acquired while she was here. She was a stray, very young, but she has learned how to knock on the door now, and she's very, very vocal, talks all the time. So I really like that cat. So I've been told many times that, well, several things. I almost hate making these kind of videos because somebody's going to say, I told you, and you know, but people are always telling me that people are going to steal my firewood. Now, the reason they think this is because we live close to a road. My only guess is people are complaining about us living on a road, doesn't know what it's like to live in the country. You got to have a road. My grandma lived in 5 acres, way out there in the middle of nowhere. And there was a road next to her house. I mean, she may have been a couple hundred feet away from the road. There was a creek that divided between her and the road. I would say that she lived out in the country, and I don't feel like I'm much different here. We'll admit the house is close to the road. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I don't know why people will, first of all, they'll say, well, you don't live off grid. But then they say the road is my biggest security problem. I actually think the road is my biggest asset for a few reasons. People say that they're going to steal my firewood. I think that's going to be very difficult. I don't know how much they think they're going to get, but there's 15, well, I don't know if there's 15 cords here. There's 15 cords total. There may be, I don't know, there might be 15 there. I might have more than 15 now, I don't know. It takes 3 truckloads to make a cord. So they're gonna have to get their pickup truck down past my truck because there's just no way to get in to my yard. There's a ditch. So I don't see how they're gonna do that. Now, people are gonna say, well, they can do it when you're not home. Burglars, robbers, thieves want to know what's going on. They don't want to get caught. We're always home. I mean, 99.9999% of the time, we're home. And the truck's parked there. I have no trespassing sign. I don't make a lot of friends here. We don't communicate our schedule to anybody. We don't know anybody around here. We don't talk to anybody. It's been a couple years since we've talked to the lady at the gas station. For those who are going to say, I remember you saying you talked to that lady at the gas station. I don't even know if she still works there. We don't go inside the gas station. The hardware store, I go in the hardware store occasionally. Nobody knows how crazy I am, how friendly I am. I would suspect most people think that I'm pretty crazy because we don't talk to anybody. So in order to get firewood, the most I think they're going to be able to get is a truckload. I said the road is my asset. Cars driving by, not constantly, but enough that if you're loading a truck, I would imagine a car is going to drive by. The burglar, the robber, the thief is not going to know if it's me returning home, if I'm gone that 0.1% of the time. So it's a risk. Why would you do it? Also, they're not going to know if the person's driving by knows who I am. Maybe they'll call the police or, hey, stop, what are you doing with Rob's firewood? In order to get any significant amount, you're going to have to park a tractor trailer down here to get it. And while you're loading the tractor trailer, it's going to take you a lot of time to load that much firewood. So the most they're going to get is a cord, and they got to be quick about it if we're not home. The thing is the firewood is close to the house. So even if they decided to park their truck on the road, run down here, grab a few pieces of wood, throw it and burn back and forth, I'm going to hear it. I'm not just going to stand there and say, oh my gosh, they're robbing me. What am I going to do? I mean, this is Missouri. You don't act that way. People talk about SHTF all the time. You're not going to have any defense against SHTF. Yeah, during SHTF, stuff hits the fan and I'm home. I have no worries. Nobody's going to mess with me. I've talked about my security system. I haven't told you what it is, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. But if there's an SHTF, everybody's going to know not to mess with this place. It's going to be too obvious. The first person that comes tries. It's going to be quite extreme. So the road is an asset, and so is the house, being so close to the firewood. No one's going to mess with it. I have firewood down the hill. Now, anytime we have trouble around here, it's always down here, away from the house. which makes sense. They can come around into the woods. Once we caught somebody in the camper. I told you about that. The alarm went off. We have a little squeaky alarm. And I came down here and I checked it out, and they were in the camper. And I didn't even know they were in the camper. They just kind of darted out when they realized it was me and ran off. They haven't been back. Then we had the 9 chickens that were killed by a dog. And somebody quizzed me on that in the comment section. I thought you said you had a security system. If you paid attention to the video, I didn't talk about the squeaky alarm, but I did say Carolyn heard the noises down there. Yeah, the alarm went off. I got out of bed. I looked around. I didn't go down there. That was my mistake. I just figured it was a raccoon making noise around here. If I'd have done my job and not ignored my security system, we wouldn't have had as many chickens lost. The problem with the security system in a country area like this is you're constantly getting wildlife. My grandma, I told you about her, she, in the 80s, moved from that little 5 acres onto 20 acres. And now that house was back up in the woods quite a ways, maybe 100 yards from the road. She put in an alarm that if the beam was broken across the driveway, that the alarm would go off in the house. But that thing was always going off. I don't think we ever got up and looked out the window. If it went off at night, deer would walk by it. Now, the other aspect to our security is Carolyn stays up later than she goes to bed about midnight. I go to bed about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Then I get up at 5 o'clock. So there is only a 5-hour span when it's possible somebody could get past us. They are not going to be able to steal the firewood. I mean, it's too noisy. There's just no way they could do it. Thumping of the wood into the back of the truck. But like I said, the biggest issue is down here with the chickens. One time, Carolyn heard a noise down here. So she got her shoes on and came down here, and there was a possum inside the chicken run, which was not a huge issue because the chickens were inside their coop. So at night, it's not a big deal. Now that dog was able, I told you in that video, he ripped the window off. We've gotten rid of the window, so that's not a problem anymore. Possum was not going to be able to get to our chickens. But she came back up and told me, so I came back down here to get the raccoon bite. But that time, the raccoon was already, I said raccoon is possum. By that time, the possum was already gone. So the majority of our security system is that we are home. When I was a kid, talking about wood, we weren't home very often. Dad owned a bakery, Mom and Dad owned a bakery. So Dad was always at the bakery. Then he had another job. So he'd be at the bakery at night, at the job during the day, and then Mom would work in the bakery during the day hours. It just seemed like we were never home. I had a little mini bike, and we had firewood. I don't remember how it came about, but I remember Dad and Mom telling me that my mini bike had been stolen. But they stole the firewood too. So there you would see again, they see patterns. Now, we did have neighbors. Again, we were out in the country, but we had, it's hard to explain. There was like 5 houses in the area, in that little cul-de-sac, but it was out in the country. I mean, there was woods. Me and my friend, next door neighbor, would go out in the woods and get ticks. I mean, it was woods like this. So I don't know how to explain it, but it was out in the country. Across the road was the river. It's called Big River. There's always neighbors around. No matter how far away you can go, there's neighbors. But they learn your patterns. They figure out when you're home, when you're not home. And with us being gone all the time at that house, it wasn't hard for them to load up firewood and a mini bike and whatever else they wanted. Which brings me to my robbery. I've told you before that I was robbed. We lived out in the country. It was 8 acres. It was a rented place. We rented it for $350 a month. And what it was is the guy's mom and dad died, and he didn't want to sell the place. It was a beautiful place, but he didn't want to have to maintain the property, cut the grass, and keep an eye on the place. You know, he just needed somebody there, so he rented it pretty cheap. There was a guy on the other side of the woods, hard to explain, maybe 200 yards away. I could hear his cars running. I could hear them talking real loud. You know, they were always the wife and the guy, I guess. I don't even know if they're married. They were always arguing and cussing and screaming and hollering. I know it was them. They had a big junk pile on their porch. I mean, just junk everywhere. When we started moving in, we started putting our things on the back porch. The back porch was closed in. And I noticed a couple items missing. And I was thinking, did we lose those things? It didn't occur to me that maybe somebody stole them. We weren't moved in. We were just, as we were going to work, the place was on our way to work, we would drop things off. And a lot of these boxes, we didn't want to put into the house and clog up the house, so we put it on the back porch. It was a big back porch. It was full length of the house. That way we could go through it at our leisure. So we were there, moved in for about, I guess, a year. And we worked all the time, just nonstop worked. We'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I guess we'd leave by 6, and we wouldn't come home till probably 7, 8 o'clock at night. I've told you that story. It was a really stressful job. Come home one day, and I just felt like when we parked, there was something wrong. What was interesting was I ordered a lawnmower engine for my riding mower. It'd blown up, and UPS delivered it and put it on the back door. You know, I told you about that back porch. Set it right there. Well, I saw the lawnmower engine sitting there. I was pretty excited about getting it. But the back door was open. And I was thinking, well, maybe UPS opened the door and it did get jammed up every now and then, wouldn't close on its own. And, you know, it was a spring activated, you know, spring action where it would close, but sometimes it wouldn't close. So I just figured, well, maybe it was the UPS. But we walked in, so I walked onto the back porch and I noticed the back door was open. So not only the porch door, but the actual door into the house was open. But it was obvious that somebody had been in the house. So I took out my firearm, I carry, and I walked in and we called the police. Well, I mean, they took all my pistols. I had my long guns locked up on the wall. I had it where it was kind of locked up. I think it was with a bicycle lock is what I had. But regardless, they were locked up. So he didn't get those, but he got all the pistols. We immediately bought a security system. And what it was is sensors, doors open, yard signs, windows open, but it didn't arrive before he came back for those long guns. So he got in through the back window. This time he took his time. He must have been there all day because I had those guns locked up still. I really didn't think he could get into them. But he was able to get into the back window. But he tried 3 other windows before he figured this out. Now, remember, the alarm system has been ordered. It's on its way. We just hadn't gotten it yet. I also put up a trail cam on top of the refrigerator, and I hid it behind some cereal boxes. Somehow or another, he found that trail cam. So I couldn't even prove who it was. It was very frustrating. So he took the trail cam and all the long guns. He found my Dremel, and he was able to cut through my lock. The best security system in my mind is be home. So if you'll click this up next box to take you to a video where I was talking about Carolyn having to go in a nursing home. So I hope I can inspire you to secure your stuff so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.